Happy Friday, Miami. This is Buy, Sell, Hold, a Miami real estate podcast by locals for everyone out there. I'm Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant. I'm an expert witness. I'm the founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. Let me go ahead and introduce the moderator of the podcast, my co-host, no one else but Daniel Hernandez. He is a real estate advisor over at Compass Real Estate in Coconut Grove. He does single family houses as well as condos. So next time you're in the Grove, look Daniel up and you guys can go out and he's buying. What's up,
I'm
Daniel?
I'm buying. Monty's has gotten expensive, Peter. No. You know what? We can split the bill. No, I'm kidding. Happy hour only. This is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. Welcome everybody. I hope you all survived Art Basel. I should know that by now. I've lived here my whole life. Well, this is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, episode 30. We got what, 2 or 3 of these left in 2025, and then we're onward to 2026. Peter, we've been doing this since May, if you'd believe it. And so if this is your first time joining us, Peter and I, we got this little talk show. Maybe you heard of it. Maybe somebody sent it to you. Maybe it's just my mom. But in any event, we pick 5 topics every week. And Peter and I powwow back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And at the end of each topic, we either buy, we sell, or we hold because we don't know and we're adults and we cannot know and we can admit it sometimes. But today, do we have a special guest for you? Mr. Dalembert, and I call him Mr. Dalembert not because he's an old wise man, but he's also an older, wiser man because he was my 8th grade social studies teacher, Peter.
I
Yeah,
did not know that.
he was my
Wow.
8th grade social studies teacher, and when he wrote to me, he didn't know he taught me. So I go, hey, Mr. Dalembert. He goes, call me Josh. I go, well, the last time I saw you, you were definitely Mr. Dalembert. But anyway, I'm gonna bring him on right now. He's ready. He's gonna introduce himself, and then we're gonna jump right into the show. But if you could guess, today's all about education, guys, because education's the foundation to any real global city, and that's what Miami's trying to be, right? So let's bring him on, Mr. Dalembert.
Josh,
Josh.
great to be here, Danny. It was great to have you in my class. I've been an educator in South Florida for 30 years. I spent 25 years in the classroom, and now I run a local tutoring business that helps families new to Miami and from Miami get into the elite private schools down here. Because when I was your teacher, of course, we were at Ransom Everglades, and I learned all about that admissions process. But so many people, when they come to a new city, really care about the schools, and I think that's where the education and the real estate really intersect.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Peter has buyers too, and they come and they say, hey, I want to live here. And go, hey, do you have kids? Yeah. Where are they going to school? I don't know. And then I guess they start trying to go through the process, and then they realize it's much harder than just applying and dumping a bunch of money on the school's doorstep.
It's overwhelming for some parents, so we help them through the process. Of course, there's some great public schools and some great private schools in the area, so there are some good choices, but it's hard to know the system when you haven't been from around here.
And so we talk about the different neighborhoods on the show, and one that people always want us to talk about more is Coconut Grove. For whatever reason, the Grove has marketed themselves very well to out of state folks, and my hypothesis behind it is it's all about the schools. You got Carrollton, you got Ransom, you got St. Stephen's, you got St. Philip's, or is that St. Hugh's? I always get those two confused.
St. Hughes.
St. Hugh's,
St. Phillips is in the Gables, right?
St. Philip's is in the Gables, stone's throw away. But your kids are your commute. So if you're buying a $3 million house, I would think that you work pretty long, pretty hard hours, and you want to minimize that drive time. So the Grove it is. And by the way, it's also a very nice place to live. Don't you live in the Grove, Josh?
I've lived in the Grove most of my life. I spent some of my high school years there, and then I've lived there since '99 in the same house, right?
Wow. Do you mind me asking what you bought that house for?
It was like it was in the 200s. We probably put we probably have $300,000 in the house before we moved in, but which is nothing by today's standards. But as school teachers 25 years ago, that was a lot of money, and it's what we could afford at the time. But we feel really lucky, obviously now, to have a place to live.
So I found a stat, and I was going to bring it up later on in the show. when we go to talk about affordability. But per Redfin, Miami teachers can afford just 0.2% of apartments within commuting distance of their school, the lowest in the nation.
It's very sad. A lot of the educators, my wife's also an educator. She has been for 25 years at Gables High School, which has got a great, program. But I used to be a teacher there, and that's where I went to school. So, like, my wife went to Killian. I did not say she's a cougar. I said she went to Killian. I just want to make that clear. And so we've got teachers that are driving from Homestead. Now, I used to live in Homestead, but it would take 35, 40 minutes to get up here, and now it takes like an hour and a half in the morning and an hour back. So that's like adding 2.5 hours to people's day before they even teach the first class. And the custodians and the staff also cannot really afford to live near their schools, depending where they are located, right?
I mean, Peter doesn't even drive. How long would it take Peter to commute up from Homestead to his office?
From Homestead to where's your office, Peter?
I'm across from the Casillas Center, right on Biscayne and 8th.
Well, I mean, that would be even more than an hour and a half, I guess. There's not really a good highway for you to go up. You're going to be on useless one, right?
Yeah, I could
Useless
probably be
one.
in San Juan. If I was flying, I'd probably be in San Juan quicker than taking that.
Take a
What,
flight
what do
from
they call?
Orlando.
What do they call that bus that the mayor just advanced on
The
U.S.
bus rapid transit system, right?
Yes, yes. I'd have to take that to the
The
Metro
busway.
Rail all the way down. Yep, to
So
down to
some
Miami.
cities they make the traffic go like the same way, like in rush hour. So we could use the busway and put it going north or then going south in the afternoon. But I mean, I guess some people ride buses, but and the Metro Rail was so one dimensional for so long, and now I guess it goes to the airport, but it's not real easy. I live right near the Coconut Grove station, and I took it one time, but it still took me an hour on the Metro Rail. So it's been tough in Miami for public transportation.
That's your station, right, Peter? 27th
Yeah,
Avenue?
yeah, yeah. Josh, if there's a podcast called This Day in Miami History, and the host of it is he's a teacher, but he's also a historian, and he took a look at what was originally planned. You guys are both from here originally. I got here in '93, and if you look at the original layout of where the Metro Rail was going to go, it would have been exceptional. You could have gotten the FIU out on Cayocho. You could
Uh-huh.
have got the Miami Beach. You could have got all the way up to effectively what they call today Hard Rock Stadium. Back then, what Joe Robbie Stadium. So, but if you look at the original versus what we got today, we got one dimension, like you said, of what could have been just an exceptional system.
And when they expanded it, who's the one that blocked it going out to Miami Beach? It was like the Miami Taxi Union or something like that. Like, and then Uber just destroyed their business like years after that.
That's right.
So,
Crazy.
so the Grove, and here are some facts and figures about the Grove. So September 25, which is the data that I pulled, median listing price across the Grove was 2.4 million, which Peter would be smiling when he hears me say down 4.7% year over year, but more than double from 2019's price of 1 million. And if we go way back, that's more than 6x since the market bottomed out in Q4 of 2010. So Q4 2010, we were at about 250,000. And that's even what, 10 years after Josh bought his house in the Grove. The Grove has just seen stratospheric growth. And I'm sure that correlates with the cost of private school tuition too.
The tuition's going up a lot at the private schools. Like, I'm not sure what it was when you went to school there, but like when I started teaching there 20 years ago, rather, it was like 30,000, and now it's over 50, 55.
Wow.
So that's crazy. But also the prices of all the homes in the Grove are crazy. Just plots of land for $1 million, tear downs for over $1 million. You would know the prices better than I do, but the worse the traffic gets, the more value there is being close to downtown and centrally located. And I can jump on a Metro Rail and go to the Heat game or access, my boat by the water in Coconut Grove and just be out in minutes. So it is a nice place to live, and we have nice parks, which is nice. it's a nice place to live.
So, do you think my thinking is accurate? My hypothesis I posted a little earlier regarding the proximities to the private schools is that why the Grove has exploded, or is I mean clearly there's more to it, but what's the most weighted um, line item in that rubric?
Well, Coconut Grove's older than Miami, right? Um, and it started before Miami. Even when the rest of Miami was the Everglades, we have this high ridge, Silver Bluff, and so yeah, the Bahamians helped to build Coconut Grove, and I think it's a confluence of a lot of the things: being close to downtown, being by the water, and the schools don't really hurt because you don't have to commute very far. So if you do live there, you don't want to send your child down to Gulliver or Palmer Trinity if you live in the Grove and drive past some of these good schools. So I think Ransom is super competitive within this market because, so in part, of their excellent faculty and programs, but also those other schools have great faculty and programs, but their location really helps them as well as it helps the Grove.
So not only does the Grove have the schools, but they have really good schools. Is that what you're saying?
They do. They do. They do have a lot of quality schools. I'm in my office in Borough, right next to St. Stephen's, where we pick up several times a week students from there. But it's got good schools. But there's other areas that have good schools as well, good private schools and good public schools. I do think that this area has some good public schools too. My kids, they all went through Coconut Grove Elementary, and I know there's a lot of nice families there now as well. Ponce has an IB program. Gables has an IB program, which is the local school for Coconut Grove. So I do think that there's some good private and some good public options for this area.
And when clients come from out of state, which I'm sure are a ton of your clients, folks who come in and they don't have the connections, they don't know the advancement director, they don't know the admissions directors.
Right.
What, like, give me an example. They say, "Hey, I saw on bestschools.com ransom," and you kind of go, "Well, yeah, I mean, if you can pay for it, but."
It depends on their income bracket, right? So some of them are immediately interested in public schools because of what they've heard about Miami and private schools, or from where they come from. Either public schools are good or bad. So but if they can't afford it, it's not really an option for them. But then sometimes they're not my tutoring clients because we do specialize in getting into some of those private schools.
Right.
But there's plenty of good school. Families at Carver Elementary and Middle School has a great language program, and those kids work really hard. So there are some other good schools besides private schools, but I think it's just in their head of what do they want when they get to Miami, and then they immediately talk to coworkers scouting out, and maybe their realtors also. Don't you get a lot of questions about schools?
All the time.
Okay.
All the time. I know Peter has more institutional buyers who are, a condo is just a number on a balance sheet for them, but on on a personal, on a familiar level, it's something that always comes up. I found my dream home, but oh shoot, where's little Timmy gonna go? And then by the way, there are the clients who come down, particularly from New York. Long Island has a very well built out and successful charter school system. Actually, one of them is coming down here, Success Academies. They're vying for a few spots, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But they can't, these are Fortune 100 executives, and they cannot, for the life of them, wrap their head around the idea that $50,000 is value. Like I'm smart, I'm wealthy, and I'm not falling for this trap.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been offering myself to work with more realtors because it's such a priority for some buyers. And so, if you've got realtors watching your program, I'm sure they've got to be interested in all that interesting stuff that you guys talk about every week. So I consult with some families and some that are new to Miami or new to the system because it can be overwhelming if you don't know the schools and their reputations, right?
So, in terms of Grove hot, 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 Peter, um, buy, sell, hold.
Based on the schools or based on the marketplace?
Based on the marketplace. Well, based
You
on
know,
everything, really. It all goes into the washing machine.
yeah. I mean, I guess you have to be a buy on Coconut Grove for everything that's said. I'd be a sell on the pricing though. I don't know. I don't think that the pricing holds. I think we got ahead of ourselves. I think we took out a cash advance, and now we're going to have to grow into sort of the pricing. And I think that might sort of be the issue. If your horizon is 3 to 5 years, you might be sticking to 5 years in order to sort of achieve what you wanted. Remember, there was a big run up in 2021 when everybody flooded into Florida because you didn't have to wear a mask and you could work from home. And now that that dynamic has sort of changed, if you're living elsewhere and you're trying to rent out that house because now Jamie Dimon wants you back on Wall Street or Silicon Valley wants you back in Northern California to work on AI, what do you kind of do with it? Do you rent it? Can you break even? So I would say we're ahead of ourselves. I'm a buy on the Grove, but I'm a sell on current valuations.
Josh?
I'm the Grove is very hot. I'm a buy, but I do not know the prices of real estate like you guys do. I'm just on the reputation of the Grove, the schools, the parks. I definitely am a buy on the Grove.
I'm a buy on it too. And because data is so important to Peter, I'm going to make him smile again. Year over year, median time to sale. Ready for this, Peter? October 2024, 64 days. October
Wow.
2025, 123. So that demand for the current pricing, I mean, the data says it. It's slowing. And this is October to October. We're putting apples to apples. So that indicates to me that a lot of people are still asking pretty lofty prices. But overall, I'm still a buy.
Josh, can I ask you a quick question?
Please.
Is there any kind of indicator? Is there an index? Is there any kind of tracking mechanism where we can track private school tuitions? Whether it'd be grade school, high school, and or university, better universities, just to kind of get a sense. I would love to be able to correlate what's going on in condo prices in a place like Coconut Grove, as well as the state of Florida, as well as South Florida, because you got Ken Griffin, who we call Ken Billions. He's donating money to some New York institution. They're going to open up all these grade schools. We all know about the Montessoris. We have every other university out there. Is there any kind of valid, reliable index to be able to get a gauge as to what's going on with education prices and whether or not they're moving in unison or maybe one's out of whack or the other is?
Not that I know of, and if you find one, please pass it to me. But I think it would be savvy of me to build one so that people would view my website that are interested in that kind of stuff. And I can find the data each year. I don't know if I can find it for the past years, but if I start building it, it would be a source of information for people that are interested in that kind of thing. But it does go up almost every year at Ransom other schools, but does it go up 3% or 5% or what? That I should start collecting that data. That's a great idea.
And
So
Josh, one other question, if I could piggyback on that,
Please.
what's the vig? What's the kicker on top of tuition? Everybody knows you got to drop your 50 grand or whatever it is to send your kid to school, but then you got all the add-ons. Is there any? Have you ever seen a percentage like typically whatever your tuition is, add 10% because of books and junk fees and everything else? Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, I wouldn't know how to calculate it, but I mean, just on the bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs alone in seventh grade, Danny, how many Amazon gift cards is that? But usually they include the price of lunch, but you usually buying your uniforms, or if you're taking any school trips, and if you have bus transfer or private transportation. I mean, nannies sometimes are driving the kids to school, so like it would be, it's basically one price, but there are a few add-ons. And they even will charge separately for books sometimes. So I think building both tools, maybe the other one would be too hard to estimate, but the first one is just like call up the admissions office and say, how much are you charging tuition this year, and keep tracking every year. I think that's a great idea.
Hey, well, Josh, just remember when you create the index, you got to make give credit to Buy, Sell, Hold Miami.
Okay. Okay. I got it. Sponsored by is what I was thinking.
There we go. Powered by.
So I want to thread the needle. So I'm moving the topics around. We're gonna jump into charter schools, just because we're talking about the price of schools. So anybody who doesn't know what a charter school is. I want to hear it from the authority. I want to hear it from the pro. Josh, what the heck is a charter school?
Charter school is like privately run and owned, but publicly funded. So you don't need to do tuition. They can take their FTE, which is your money that each public school gets for each private for each student when they count when they count do attendance, right? There's like an FTE day, so they're like really encouraging every child to be in school that day. Then they count, and your funding is based on your enrollment. It's like in October, if I'm correct. And so if it's $8,000, I don't know the exact number, but I can get it. But if it's $8,000, those charter schools are taking that public money from your tax dollars, your property taxes, mainly in Florida, and then they're giving it to a charter school operator. And we have one of the biggest, no, the biggest in America is Academica, and that family is local to Miami, and they own all the Matter Academies and all the SOMIs and things like names that you might recognize, but
Sure.
they do have to take the tests and the standardized tests that the public schools do. And I think they also get graded, but they don't have to have the same pay teachers unions for their teachers or requirements for teachers. So a lot of public school teachers really distrusted, but you know that there's happening something with the governor is he's allowing charter schools to apply for failing school for charter schools to get the building space
That's a Schools of
of
Hope
the
program, right?
schools of hope. But a lot of the applications I was reading this week are not going for the failing schools or the low performing school areas. They're trying to get into even like schools that are being well run or have not dropped in enrollment. So they're trying to figure out a way to get public land and public schools for charter for a private industry, right?
So, and I looked into this a little bit, and this is, real estate's not your space. So education is definitely not our space. We do know how to read and write, thanks to Ransom. Or maybe the reading and writing was thanks to St. Stephen's, but definitely both of those things. And so I looked into how a school sort of rebuttals these letters of intent, and they can cite, and this is just me looking it up, my Daniel's half-ass internet research. So under the current state rule, the schools can cite material impracticability as a reason to object. And what the hell does that mean? It sounds vague. So district leaders have flagged cases where a charter's proposed enrollment would exceed the actual physical capacity or conflict with specialized uses. So just think about it like a logistics problem. Like, hey, two schools can't coexist here. We got parking, we got sports field, we got a cafeteria. They can't share a cafeteria. You're trying to put an elementary school into a high school. You got big kids and little kids. It doesn't gel. It's not, I get it that these FTE numbers and kids are just a number on a balance sheet, but kids are kids, and a 3-year-old has different needs and a 7-year-old has different needs and a special needs 14-year-old. It doesn't really make sense.
Daniel, but there's a precedent. You got the New York Giants football team and you got the New York Jets football team, and they both play in the Meadowlands. They get along fine. Why can't the great?
Do they get along fine? So, you said the Matter Academy. So Matter Academy, in terms of these Schools of Hope letter of intent, they blow all their competitors out of the water in terms of all these notices that they're sending to the schools. I mean, it was like in the dozens compared to 5, 6, 7. So they're really the juggernaut here, it seems.
They are, and where I think they've had a lot of success. Of course, I don't know how far back you want to go, but I would say like school choice with Governor Jeb Bush, and the privatization not only like of schools and taking your tax dollars and you get to choose and should your tax dollars be able to go to a religious school or not, and all that. They started framing it as a school choice for parents. But I think the charter schools have grown out of that, not just in our state, but definitely in our state. So I think that public schools have been maybe too stagnant and not creative enough. Then you pair that with your admissions department of your private schools, and now your charter schools are basically the marketing department. Who at Gables or Carver or Coconut Grove Elementary, who is doing the marketing for that school to attract people if you have a choice? and no one is the answer. And so now principals are getting social media accounts and trying to do something, but they're not trained to run it as a business. They're trained educators. So I think the school district has got to pick that up, because if they innovate and promote themselves, then parents could be attracted. We could get our numbers back up in public schools. I used to be a public school teacher. I haven't been for a while, but I still I started my career that way. So I sometimes slip into that's us and the we, but it's our public interest and it's our public tax dollars, and we don't want. I don't think you guys want, and I don't want our real estate to be given away for free.
No, and that's what this is
everywhere.
about. It's a
Right.
bad real estate. We talk about bad real estate deals here on this show way more than we should have to, but it's South Florida, right, Peter?
Right.
Josh, quick question. Maybe we don't know where the audience is. Charter school. Can you give us any insight? How the hell do you come up with that name, charter school? It's not exactly incentivizing. It doesn't help you aspire to something. What does charter mean? Is that based on legislation, or can you provide any insight?
I cannot. I do not know where the word charter comes from in that context. In fact, I have gotten to go to a lot of public schools and a lot of private schools, and I've not visited too many charter schools. So I sort of have a chip on my shoulder about them, but I really should
Nice.
give them a chance. I think some of them are excellent. Some of them are less than excellent, which sounds like public schools to me. But and private schools too. I just don't think just because you're a charter, private, or public that you're good or bad. I think it depends on the faculty and the staff and the program and the leaders there, and the families, also make up the school as well as the kids. So I don't know where charter comes from. Sorry, Peter.
Josh, and to piggyback on that, you know, government money going towards a public-private type of school, that to me sounds like socialism. And I know that we're a red state and we're against socialism. I'm not asking you, this is a rhetorical question, but there's a lot of hypocrisy. You can't say global sea level rise, but we got puddling and we got other stuff. You can't say socialism, but then you got government money going to pay for a public-private school. So I don't know what the answer is. I'm just sort of raising it. It sort of makes me scratch my head and rub my gray goatee.
Well, remember that 150 years ago, we didn't try or even attempt to educate all children. Certainly, we weren't. Abraham Lincoln only got like a fourth grade education and had to, borrow books and teach himself, and took the bar without even going to law school. So we weren't certainly trying to teach all races or all genders, or sexes rather. And then when we finally did, we weren't doing it equally for so long. And then, but any park or road or fire station or school is a social program because it's to benefit society. Since I taught government and history for so long, I would like to stress that point, is we do have taxes and we collect them for the benefit of society. So, a social program like Social Security or a school or a road or a fire station is a social program. But I think they're so politically charged that we throw these terms around so much, right?
And this is not my viewpoint, but to be even marginally prepared for this conversation, I had to call a buddy of mine who works up in New York for a charter school system, and I read what I can, but I needed the boots on the ground viewpoint, and obviously he's very pro charter school because he's a charter school operator. And I said, and he's a smart guy. And I said, what's the deal with these charter schools? And he sends me a voice note. I hate voice notes, but I listened to the whole thing. It was like 6 minutes long. He goes, I'm really passionate about this because ultimately, and this is his words, he goes, it's the public school systems in a lot of these places have been failing their communities because they haven't had to market. They have a captive audience. It's across the street from my house. So it's where I live. And I don't have to be good or bad. I don't have to provide a good or bad education. It's just I have a captive audience. And then enter these charter schools where they don't give a shit where you live. They're taking the public funds. All they're trying to do is outperform these public schools that in a lot of places, I'm not saying Miami or New York in particular, I'm just saying in a lot of places have been failing. And so with this school choice program, you can effectively send your kid to the highest performing free education possible. And if I don't have kids, but if I had kids, I would say, well, okay, free school. Do I go here, or do I go here, or do I go here? I just want to pick the best one. Charter school, public school, or not. Is my kid learning how to read when he's 6 years old? That's
Right.
ultimately what it's about.
And
And by
there's
the
one more
time, yeah, tell me.
there's one more type of school that we didn't talk about, which is magnet schools. So
Okay.
magnets
Oh
were
no.
to try to get blacks to go to white neighborhood schools and vice versa, and for racial segregation when Jim Crow was put to rest. And now Jim Crow is 1954, but Dade County was integrating around late 60s and even early 70s, years after that. And there was a lot of resistance in Florida to that integration. But magnet schools are public schools that are doing innovative programs. So Mast Academy is a magnet school, though it's a public school. And
Like
then
New
Coral
World
Reef,
is another one of those, right?
which one?
New World School of the
New
Arts,
World, right? So
Dash.
like fame, I want to live forever. Okay, that's like you're really talented in the arts and you go to New World, but that's a public school, but it's a magnet. You have to apply to get in, and
Okay.
so Mast is like that. Coral Reef High School is like that. They've got a bunch of magnets. So Coral Gables High has a bunch of magnets. So lots of your local schools have magnets, and it's a special program that is a little more innovative and does attract a certain type of student, and so that's a magnet school. Now I know you guys like to talk about corruption on this show, right?
No, 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 no. We don't like to
Miami?
talk about it, but it's inevitable,
You don't
Josh.
want to talk about it, but
Oh, I want
unfortunately,
to talk about it. I like to talk about it.
part of the part of the story of Miami-Dade losing their grip, and maybe even Florida, on with the public schools having this monopoly, is that Pat Tornello was the kingpin, kiss the ring, like he had a pinky ring actually, and he would go in his expensive suits to the school board, but he was the UTD like mob boss basically, and he was putting money in his own pocket. He ended up like going to jail for it, but like he he had a monopoly. The teachers union was very strong, and through that corruption, and he was involved in the state too. So the Florida teachers union, as well as the Miami teachers union (UTD), really has suffered since then. And I used to be a steward and involved in the UTD, but like it was just total corruption by one individual that really brought down the reputation of school teachers,
Right.
and that union not being strong, and then the teachers not getting paid. That's the contract that my wife signed 25 years ago has not been a contract. She doesn't get those what was contractually offered to her, and a lot of teachers just cannot afford, you know, their teaching habit, right, because of it.
I got to keep us honest with time.
Okay.
Charter schools,
Daniel, can I ask one
go,
question? I'm
go.
sorry.
Yeah, this is what he's here for.
All right. So Josh, real quickly, trying to put this in business terms. Typically, what you'll see is you'll see a private company, and then you'll see private equity, which is the cash, the smart people. They know how to run the numbers. They're going to come in. They're going to buy a company. They're going to sell off the assets, and
Okay.
then they will bankrupt whatever's left, which tends to be the less desirable types. They'll bankrupt it, or they'll do whatever they're going to do. But they've taken the best, they've dumped it off, they've maximized it, and then they take the rest and they say, well, we got to bankrupt, we got to do something like that. Do we kind of have that going on in South Florida? I keep hearing about Broward County and other schools, districts where they actually have to shut down schools because so many students either have disappeared because people got cost out, families got priced out, they left, and or they're putting their kids in charter schools or any of these other schools. Is there a little bit of private equity, that general strategy where you take the best, the wealthiest, the best assets, and then whatever's left, you just sort of, you figure out a way to kind of work it through the system and just kind of make it go away?
Well, isn't that what they're doing with this Schools of Hope program? They're allocating public school real estate to these charter schools.
I think it's been going on for decades. Again, when we started slapping an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F on a school, then that tells you if you go to an F school, why would we, like, first of all, how do you give us an entire faculty and program and curriculum a single grade? Well, it's easy to understand, but then by the income or the zip code, I can almost tell you where the A schools and the F schools are going to be. But that doesn't mean you can't do things in those underperforming schools. But it's been to take that public money and put it elsewhere, or to fund. I think there's been corruption where like certain family members of politicians own the test company that's going to offer the test. It's happened. I mean, we've read articles about it, right? And so I think
Yes.
this is a continuation of that. And why do we need to pay the teachers? I mean, if we had a really excellent public school system that was supported, we have some excellent educators, but do they feel supported? Or, if to support them is expensive. And
Right.
I thought I was going to take a pay cut to go to Ransom as a private school, but I took a pay increase, and that was 20 years ago. And so private schools used to be historically, you could not make as much money there, but being a public school teacher is not as good of a job as it once was. The unions are weaker, but I do think that it's on purpose. So I would agree with that.
Buy, sell, hold, charter schools solve the education problem, Pete.
Me personally, I like the public schools. I'd rather have everybody together. I love the diversity. I don't like the exclusivity. Personally, I think you ought to go to public school, and then you go to Josh's company, Who Tutor, get your tutoring there and apply to get into college. So whatever that is, I'm assuming that's a sell, but that's my old school perspective, because I think AI and I think programs like what Josh offer, that allows you, if you really are aspiring to do something, to do it. But I think there's a real value in the community kind of getting to know each other, and we're not each in our own silos. So is that a sell or is that a buy?
Sounds like a sell.
Yeah, I'm
So
a sell.
Are you a sell?
I'm a sell. I do not think they solve the education program, but I would encourage public schools to be more creative and take more risks, and probably add a department for marketing, so that they can compete in this new environment that is being created. I'm a product of public schools. My wife's a public school teacher. I pulled my last son out of Ransom to send him to a public school because I think there's a
Wow.
lot of good public school options. So if you were buying a car and you had to spend $50,000 on one, and your tax dollars already paid for one, and you weren't sure which one's better, I know which one I would choose. Although a lot of my clients are trying to get to private schools, and I can help them, but I do not think charter schools are solving the problem. They're creating a new environment that is a challenge.
All right. Sounds like you're a sell. I'm going to hold, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I'm hope the current state clearly isn't working. And Josh says we need marketing. With what budget? The numbers I pulled, and you said it's based on those FTE numbers, right?
Yes,
So in Miami-Dade County public schools, third countries, they fight with Chicago for third and fourth largest public school district,
right.
educates thousands of migrant students, right? They are down 14,000 from the previous year and more than 20,000 enrolled students from the year before that. Superintendent of Miami-Dade Schools says it's not because they're leaving for charter schools or private schools, it's that they're simply not showing up.
Well,
Um,
some of the people are scared to show up, and school used to be a place where immigration is not going to really come. And so, as that changes, there are some immigrant families that are scared about their status, and they think that by showing up to school, they could get picked up. So, I
that
think
is
that is part of
awful.
it.
All
That's
right,
part of it.
we're moving along. The wealthy forgot about public schools. And we were talking a little bit about Ransom and Palmer and Carrollton and people coming in from out of state. They Google and they want the best for their kids because who doesn't? They haven't met Josh yet. He hasn't sort of laid out the lay of the land. They work with people who make millions of dollars, whose kids go to these schools, but there are free, amazing options. What a thought! So I didn't know. I didn't know that there was. So you said Gables even has magnet schools within it. So are some public schools more like universities, like Oxford, and then under Oxford and Cambridge, you have all these little colleges, and there's all these little programs underneath them.
That's one way to describe it. I wouldn't call it Oxford, but at the same time, there's some obviously through AP, but there's also some dual enrollment. Like my son graduated high school, but he already had his freshman year knocked out. So that's one less
Wow,
year of college he had to do because he did a dual enrollment at Gables. He was in a math and an English class like that was giving him college credit. And there's even tests you can take for college credit. And so there's some exciting things at public schools. And so to answer your question or to stay on topic, like, yeah, if you're at a certain level of wealth, $50,000 is not like, that sounds crazy to say, but like to some people, that's not that much money. So that whether tuition's here or there, they might even be giving. they're even giving money beyond that because the private schools are asking all their parents for additional money for their annual fund and to build buildings and give
Oh, I
donations
know. They asked their
to
alumnus
uber
too.
rich, right?
Um, so I wanna we're gonna switch up the screen for you, Josh. So don't get startled. I want to bring up something. We're gonna take the old Google Map for a ride, and so we're gonna look all the way over here. Josh, you can see this, huh?
Yes.
So we're gonna talk. We're gonna intersect schooling and real estate really quick. And if you go up to this area that has been dubbed, it's probably been called a lot of things since you lived here, but they call it Buena Vista now. Buena Vista, the nice vista, the good vista. It's across from Morningside, and the site we're talking about is a 15-acre site formerly known as Archbishop Curley. This
Hmm.
site, by the way, the diocese closed the school years ago. I played football against Curly there when I was in high school, but that was 20 years ago. Yeah, Peter, I played football. Don't laugh.
I'm not laughing.
So
What position did you play?
nose tackle. I was a chubby guy. I still am a chubby guy. What
Nice.
the heck? So this Archbishop Curley site here, 15 acres, and a world-renowned private school called Avenue the World, which sounds more like a members-only club. And well, it is a members-only club if you're charging $50,000 a year. They bought
Right.
this. They bought this tract of land for $60 million, which in today's terms actually pretty cheap for 15 acres right there on the train tracks. But they bailed. They could not get their financing in order to construct this, despite the immense demand. I mean, Josh is in business because there are so many kids, so many families who want to send their kids to these high-end private schools that have waiting lists that go from Ransom all the way down to Coral Reef Yacht Club. I mean, that go for miles. And I just think it's kind of strange that something with so much demand could not uh, get their coffers filled. Peter, did they overpay for this back in the day? I mean, what's the deal with this? Do you know any backstory here?
I don't know any backstory on it, but I can just sort of tell you it's in an up and coming market, and if you're going to try to achieve these high prices for some of these private schools or charter schools, whatever the case might be, it doesn't have the right location, it doesn't have the right address. Now it's an up and coming area. If you like, for instance, if you are let's put it in stock investor terms, this would be like buying. I'm not going to say GameStop, but it's pretty much out there. It's betting on something way in the future. If you look at the area in and around there, yeah, you have Buena Vista. Buena Vista's got it's got a little thing going
You
on.
got
But there
Bay
used to be,
Point, you got Morningside. Those are probably Bay Point's one of the nicest neighborhoods in town.
but there's a big divide east and west of the tracks still to this day.
Yep.
When Henry Flagler, old man Flagler, when he brought his tracks down, it was pretty, there was a line in the, in the swamp, if you will, and I would argue that line is still pretty much in play today. If you're on the east side of the tracks or the west side of the tracks over there, dramatically different. Now the people going to the Buena Vista, I'd say they're frontiers, but they've been on the frontier for 20 years. I don't know if and when. Now you see pockets of things popping up, but the thing is, we've been in an up market. Let's see what happens in a down market. Let's see how it plays forward. And then if you're a lender coming in, it's a local lender going to finance that, or it's going to have to be an out of towner. An out of towner coming in, they might drive around and it might not necessarily be what exactly they're looking for. Now, long term, whoever buys it downstream is probably going to do very well. But I don't know if this first purchase was
Hey,
that smart given the market
well,
condition.
you know who makes silly real estate decisions all the time are municipal administrators. Why don't they just buy it back from these guys, give them their appreciation because they're certainly not in the business of losing money, and turn it into a school. Shit, you could rezone that. And I mean, how many kids can go to school in 15 acres? I mean, how big is Ransom? Ransom's a bad example because it's a very small knit community. But you can shove a lot of students into a lot of seats in this in 15 and a half acres. And I mean, look how centrally located it is. It's in this up and coming. You got right there is the design district where money launderers shop for Hermes. I mean, they're not money launderers; they're entrepreneurs. But there's a ton of money here, and it sort of seems like this grossly underutilized piece of land.
But
So the Avenues is from New York, and they've got other schools. I think one's in China and maybe one in Brazil. I was on their website. a few times, but they're very successful. And so maybe they got down to Miami and are like, whoa, this is not us. Or maybe they realized that's not the right neighborhood for what they envisioned. Like you said, Peter, I think Cushman's close to there, isn't it?
Yeah, Cushman's up the street.
But Cushman's sort of small. And
They didn't
so
have a high school program until fairly recently, huh?
their high school program is a little different than their middle school program. But um, I'm not sure why they didn't do anything there, but like going a little bit back, if public schools are going to lose enrollment, then let's put some condos for affordable housing for teachers or school personnel or any workers there. Like let's like we didn't we let developers steal
Yes.
land and not have any criminal charges for the lands that were reserved for low income. So instead of letting a charter school build more schools there, then let's let the charter schools for private fend for themselves and do affordable housing if we're going to take away space from a field or a track or a school. If we're going to, instead of closing schools, just make them into condos because the school board is the school board and the parks are the parks. But like, I think every school should be a park. And in some communities that happens. But the taxpayers, they don't really see the difference between schools or parks or fire stations or police stations. They just want public services to be excellent because they're all of our tax dollars. So that the property for schools should be used for a public purpose.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Peter, quick zoning math, because I know you love doing the quick arithmetic in your head. 15 and a half acres on, I mean, that's got to be TSND zoning because it's right there on the fixed rail. There's got to be a fixed rail stop somewhere around there. I know they're trying to put one in the Miami Innovation District just up the street. Either TSND zoning, I don't know if that would qualify for RTZ under Miami-Dade. It certainly qualifies for Live Local if they want to shove it down their throats. But how many units could you put on this here?
Oh, that would take that's going to take a little bit more time for me to get. What did it say in the zoning? You're looking at is that the property appraiser record?
No, but I can pull it up for the gang.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you pull up
This
the
is a
property
live
record,
search for the gang.
yeah.
Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up.
If you pull it up and go to the bottom, I'm
right
assuming. Yeah.
Well, it's still owned by these guys. Vacant land. It's primary commercial use. It's not even zoned like government, school, park. So a for-profit, any for-profit institution could use it.
Yep. Go to the right.
I'm on the right.
Okay, a little bit down. Do you see anything? It should be near the bottom on the right-hand side. There should be like a T something.
Civic institution.
So, okay, so that's going to be outside of my
but
purview.
Dude, it's City of Miami. They're the bosses. You can rezone anything, and they don't even have to lobby for it. It's for the public interest. Just do it. Sell it. Buy it from the Avenue. Rezone it and do something good for the community because it's been sitting defunct there. I don't know when Curly closed, but that lot has been sitting
Been there for
underutilized.
years.
Yeah, almost as long as the lots on Watson Island that we keep on talking about. Which, by the way, the commission, after voting 4-1 to defer to yesterday's vote, anybody who bothers watching, I do like to watch it because I think it's exhilarating. My wife likes to watch The Real Housewives. I watch The Real Thing, and it's at City Hall right there down the street from you, Josh. And They voted to approve the sale for the $29 million sale for the last 3.2 acre little site on Watson Island, which, by the way, found out which parcel it was, Peter.
Which one was it?
It's next to the Children's Museum. It's not waterfront, but it's
Okay.
like the hole. It's like the hole in the donut. So obviously, they need it because if you don't have that, the whole project kind of falls apart. But we're not talking about that. Back to schools. Back to public interest. The wealthy.
Well, can I ask a question? Talking about this about the site, Catholic Church's got a lot of dirt. Why would the Catholic Church sell this? I mean, if the school
They need money.
if
It's
it
$60 million.
But that's kind of the point. Why wouldn't they grind it out? They had acquired it a long time ago. Their burn on it was probably minimal. Why would they
Well,
actually dump it
why
unless?
did this church sell out? Remember this one?
Well, yeah, yeah, 100%. I remember that one, and nothing ever got built on it either. The one just north of the Design District, right?
No. This is the one just next to the icon,
Oh,
the
okay. I thought
Presbyterian
you meant.
church.
Okay, I thought we were talking about Buena Vista, right on the east side of the eastern entrance to the Design District. There was a church there that got dumped to a supposed condo developer, and that church was smart to dump it, just like where the Elser is in downtown Miami. That was a church that got dumped, just like in Coral Gables. You had a church that got dumped, it got turned into an office building. So, I guess what I'm seeing is a lot of these religious organizations, they're seeing the money grab. They can take the money and they can kind of use it for other purposes.
Well, less
But
people are tithing today, I think, than ever. No, I'm not religious by any means, but I would imagine with everything going on, they have what the hell do I know?
but again, why not lease it out? This is the part I don't understand. We're in this economy, this environment where if you're Nvidia and you want to sell certain chips to China, the Fed's got to get 25% vig on it. Why aren't we leasing this stuff out? Why effectively are these groups dumping it unless they don't see a long-term play? Maybe it has to do with demographics. Maybe, I mean, there could be a whole variety of factors. But anytime a situation like this where the land is being sold, just like Watson Island, why would you sell that off? Why don't you simply lease it out 99 years and 5 additional 99-year leases? Why exit it? Why not participate in the upside based on what we see going on in the White House, where there's a vig on every little thing? If you want to sell here, you want to sell there, we're going to have to go ahead. We're going to have to get, what do they call it, a golden share or whatever the case may be. This is the part that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know, Pete. The wealthy forgot about public schools. I just want to stay on topic here. So the enrollment decline, Josh. We were talking about the sort of the exiting or the not showing up, as the superintendent says, of students in Miami-Dade public schools. That's resulting in erasing $70 million from the district's annual budget. So I'm just trying to make ends meet here. You say that public schools have to market more. Maybe they open a marketing department. How can they do so if, between
How can they afford not to do so? Because they're losing now. They're losing. They're having to make cuts now. So how can they afford not to? They've got plenty of people who know how to do a video camera or a cell phone and get a social media account.
Right. It doesn't take, it's free,
Right.
basically, right?
Right. Right. And so they can't afford not to because they can't afford to keep losing. So they've got to figure out a way. Plus, once you take that cost and divide it by all the schools, there's plenty of people downtown that can work on that. They actually should hire a firm to do it so that they don't lose because they're
So,
losing $7,000 or $8,000 every time they lose a student.
law firms work pro bono for people all the time. What about PR guys working pro bono? I guess they don't charge enough money to work pro bono.
They never get paid. PR firms never get paid. They bill, and then when the economy goes to hell, they don't get paid.
First people to get fired. All right. Wealthy forgot about public schools. Buy, sell, hold, Pete.
Oh, I'm a pound the table, flip that damn thing over. The wealthy doesn't give a shit about the public schools, and I think what we're seeing is simply an example of it.
Josh?
I'm a buy. I mean, the most wealthy don't really care that much about public schools, and that's a problem because as if a wealthier person is more influential than the common voter or the common person because they have more influence or more money to put in the political system, then those public schools will continue not to get the funding that, like, as employers, we should want very educated a workforce.
Right.
But no, just looking out for themselves, I think, is what's happening. They do not, the wealthiest do not care.
And that's a great segue into this next topic, Miami pricing out its own students. So this is about local hiring, right? We hear all these alternative investors coming in and these hedge funds, and I want to point out three of them: Millennium, Citadel, and one with a funny name that starts with a V that I wrote down that I can't find, but I'll call them out later. But I call out these three firms because they're hiring the most in terms of relocating their headquarters down here to South Florida, whether it's in Aventura, Palm Beach, Miami. Citadel's down here in Miami. That's Ken Billions' company, Pete. And the question that I'm trying to discuss and that we can sort of peel the layer of the onion back on is, are they hiring locally? And this is the education episode. If we have awesome and well-educated pupils ascending into the workforce, well, if they're awesome, then why don't you hire the local people who want to live here? You don't need to convince them to move here from Chicago. They got their families here. I mean, Miami is a tough place to live as an out-of-state person. Tax benefits be damned. You don't know anybody here. You got to get your kids into freaking private schools or a magnet school. You got to uproot everybody. But
the weather's nice, though. The weather is nice.
That's our hypothesis, that it has nothing to do with Mamdani. It's far more primitive than that. But the bikinis and sunshine. So if we have all of these things going for us here, and the one missing piece is a highly educated workforce, why not put all that money into the public school system to make our workforce the smartest, most able workforce possible, so we don't have to import talent? That's my soapbox. I'm sorry, guys.
Well, wasn't Miami-Dade College trying to do that? Weren't they trying to bridge the gap? And look what they got.
Oh, you're.
Wait,
Yeah.
what's the Miami-Dade part?
Please, Peter. Please.
Well, Miami-Dade College, they had built up an infrastructure for especially those people who were looking to transition from maybe high school, or maybe they were a new arrival, learn the language, learn a skill. Maybe AI is coming. You need a new job skill, whatever the case may be. So they go ahead, they build an infrastructure. They have campuses all over the county, and
Yes.
their endowment is effectively a piece of dirt on Biscayne and between 5th and 6th. And at some point, they can either sell it off or they can build or expand there. And they just decided to give it away. So, Harvard's got its endowments. Yale has its endowments. Miami-Dade College had its endowments in the form of dirt, where you could put up 2,500 units, and they decided to give it away.
And we got our favorite octogenarian activist. We are his, maybe not his biggest fans, but if he's watching, we are certainly top 50. We love Marvin Dunn.
I was really good friends with his daughter growing up at Gables, so I know him well, and he just seems to be more active every year and every moment when we need him. So I'm really thankful for him. They've actually built a really nice collection of properties downtown, though. They're using the other ones, though I'm not for the giving away of that parking lot. They've really built up a nice portfolio, I guess, of properties down there, haven't they?
Oh yeah, and it's not just Miami-Dade College. I mean, downtown is Miami-Dade College, but the other, we're talking about higher public institutions, higher education. FIU, talking to a client the other day, her daughter, very smart, very well-to-do. She wanted to do international business, and when they looked at the ranking nationally, FIU came out on top. And so she's like, I want to go to FIU. But FIU, in my mind, and I've had to learn this. In my mind, was just a commuter school where you lived at home and you got in your car and you drove out to 8th Street and you went to class and then you drove back home. But now that they have the law school, which is great, they have the medical school, which is very competitive, arguably better than University of Miami's Miller School of Medicine. And so a lot of these folks, and this is FIU, so this ain't $100,000 a year for University of Miami. This is, it ain't MDC, but it ain't UM. And so now, if you drive out to the FIU area, it's not as much as a commuter school as it used to be. They got student housing, they got dorms, they got a campus, they got apartments off campus. That whole area along 107th Avenue, it's exploding, and that's all sort of radiated around of the investment into education. Look, if you invest in education, everything else, the tide rises all boats, right? There are no losers when you invest in public education.
FIU is definitely maturing as an institution. It looks a lot better than it used to. I think UM has also made a lot of strides, but Miami-Dade's been an excellent community college for years and serving. I mean, it was no longer just a community college, but having the access and ease to which people can get their training in English or AA degrees and now bachelor's degrees is really, they've been a top-notch institution for a community college, like for years. I think I agree with you, Daniel. FIU is really maturing. They've got a football team, but they look like a university, but it does serve the purpose of a community college. And like my son goes there, my other son graduated there, and my wife graduated from there. So the Panthers are on the rise.
Pitbull
But
Stadium.
right, they built the
Yeah,
stadium. Oh gosh, what is it called? Is it called
it's Pitbull
Pitbull
Stadium.
Stadium? Yeah,
Yeah.
Pitbull.
Dale. Um, that's what I would say
So
to that.
so here, I guess I'm the stat man today because I really wanted to be prepared. I was nervous about getting a C on that quiz in 8th grade, so I didn't want to show up
You
empty-handed
did your
here.
homework.
So
Thank you.
so while Miami saw wage growth 6.6% in one 12-month period ending in June 2024, which UBS be damned, number one, highest in the nation. So we saw the highest in wage growth. The problem with that is that home prices from 20 to 23 grew 4.3 times faster than wages. So while we do have sort of this just straight line up for wage growth when you compare us to other cities, our housing market has just completely blown that out of the water. That's when I pulled that 0.2% of apartment. Miami teachers can only afford 0.2% apartments within commuting distance of school. It's getting it's been unsustainable. Peter and I, Josh, talk a lot about on the show workforce housing, which isn't synonymous with affordable housing, right? We're not talking Section 8. We're talking nurses and policemen and teachers and firefighters
The
and
middle class.
yeah, the real middle class, and a firefighter who has to commute from Homestead to start his 24-hour shift in Coral Gables, is he going to be on top of his game? Question mark.
It goes back to me. I don't know the full history of it, but I did read in the paper about how some developers were stealing the land that was intended for low income and affordable housing. And I just don't know how, if you stole a car or a candy bar or I don't know, like you would be prosecuted, and how no one got prosecuted for those crimes that was stole from all of us. So and they stole the opportunity from a lot of people to live a better life that's, more affordable, but less traffic and accidents. And, going back to your thing about investing in education, we are willing in the state of Florida to invest in our universities in a way that we're not necessarily for our K through 12 schools. So those are still public institutions, but they're not necessarily funded the same way or viewed the same way. So I do think our public universities are in really good standing in a way that our K through 12 in Dade County is not necessarily receiving that kind of public generosity.
Is
And,
that
and Josh, how does that change if we eliminate property taxes?
I mean, I don't understand the economics of that at all,
well
because
the
we already
and
don't have
every
income
plan?
tax.
I gotta be fair to the legislature. In any case, the schools get a carve out. So schools and cops get a carve out from all that property tax stuff. Which, by the way, spoke to some folks up in Coral Springs. They would basically have to fire every public servant except for the school teachers and the policemen because they
I
don't
must
have to be
not
able to afford
understand
it.
much about taxes, but if we don't have income tax, then don't we pay for everything through property tax?
That we looked
And
into it,
then
and yes, you're right.
people that own their house and bought, in the 200,000 range and get a homestead exemption, like I'm not even paying my fair share. So my dad was a legislator when I was born, and he just thinks the Homestead Act, the homestead exemption is just totally unfair. And I agree with him, but I benefit from it hugely. Hugely. I'm paying a fraction of the taxes, but having the same services as some of my neighbors that are recently bought.
Oh, it's
I
absolutely
said the
right.
same thing, Josh. I said the same thing. People are locked in because of the homestead. They're locked into their home. Get rid of the homestead. Let everything adjust. You're going to open up housing. You'll have people who don't need a 5-bedroom because it's 1 or 2 people living in there. They'll simply trade it. They'll move along. If everybody's paying market price, the market will find it. But when you put in a curb, you put in a ceiling on the homestead, yeah, there's going to be a shakeout process. But that's the way you deal with the housing situation. That's the way you deal with property taxes. Let the market adjust to what it is. Don't have all this stuff that's carved out. So, Josh, I'm in your camp. Run for office. You got my vote.
Josh for
Like,
commissioner.
not,
Before we jump into elections, we got to buy, sell, hold on. Miami is pricing out its own students. They are objectively. I'm sorry I didn't ask you first, Peter, but I'm going to jump in front of you here. I'm buying that.
I'm a sell because what I always see is when we get ahead of ourselves, the market pulls back. I've been through several cycles since '93. We always
But
get way ahead of
you're
ourselves.
being an oracle, right? You're being the bullish oracle or the bearish oracle.
I'm a bull because I've seen sales plummet since 2021 on the condo side by 57%. Prices have not yet given way. So I'm a believer prices pull back. Once they do, you get a settling of the overall market. Remember, go back 20 years. There was a commissioner called Mark Sarnoff. He was pushing for affordable housing, pushing for workforce housing. And what happened? We got a nice correction, and all of a sudden, it was nice and cheap to live in greater downtown Miami. So I'm a believer in the market conditions. But lift the homestead. Nix that thing.
so I am a buy on that. I think we're having too many middle class people spending too much of their monthly income on housing. But Peter, I got to ask you a question since I don't understand this, but I just hear people talk about real estate in this way, like the condos, especially because I know you know a lot about condos. That rather than trusting in the Venezuelan economy or the banking system in Colombia, that a lot of people would come and invest their dollars into Brickell and into their condos, and that's why you at night you see all the empty lights, even in the winter. That these are not really people that are living here, but just trusting their money in Miami real estate more than some of the Latin American economies. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'd say they're not investors because they're not getting a return. They're probably losing money and they're probably subsidizing the tenant when you run
Okay.
the carrying costs, unless they've had it since 1999. Then they're probably getting some type of return. But now with the special assessments, they're probably getting wiped out. Really, what it is it's Carlos Rosso. He's a condo developer. Used to run Related's residential division. Now he's off
Okay.
on his own. He says these are safety deposit boxes in the sky. So it's ROI, not return on investment, but return of investment. And that's simply what it is. And they're going to go along for it because if they need to liquidate, they feel as if they can exit and be able to get their cash out. Hopefully, they don't get picked up by guys with masks and taken out the alligator Alcatraz in the meantime.
Nice summary. All right. Last topic of the day. Her name isn't Josh Dallenberg. Her name is Eileen Higgins, but she just became mayor of Miami. She beat out Mr. Emilio Gonzalez by 20 points. Wow, what a pathetic. I'm sorry, he tried. But the reason why she is relevant is because if you dig into the financial data, which I did, but then I just read the Real Deal article that pointed out that she raised more than 10 times or about 10 times as much money from real estate interests than her competitor. So
Wow.
she's being heralded as the developer's bestie, and developers I talked to seem to like it. I kind of thought she had this little goody two shoes vibe, but from the folks I spoke to, that was just sort of her soapbox persona. She's got teeth. She's mean. You don't make it as far as she has in the county commission, being a little goody two shoes, and I think she's going to do well. Reason why I wanted to bring her up here is to talk about the permitting system, which is something that we were talking about it right now with zoning, rezoning that tract of land, that 15-acre tract up in Buena Vista, and we've talked about it in past shows, Peter, how developers, they often cite permitting as the reason why they're delayed. Our last mayor ran on a sexy tech hub platform. It didn't go over so awesome. But she's run on this platform that she's going to fix the permitting system. So it's kind of like everybody's going to win. It's like when they put up the red light cameras, Peter. They put up the red light cameras, and they said, well, everybody's, it's for public safety, but in the backroom deals, the vendor told them how much money they were going to make from issuing red light cameras. Lo and behold, people stopped running red lights. It was safer, but they couldn't get any ROI with the vendor, so they had to remove the red light cameras. So if Eileen Higgins does indeed fix the permitting system, now developers won't have a scapegoat when their projects are delayed, right?
Listen, at the end of the day, it's all about property taxes, and anything the city can do to generate property tax, especially if there's going to be any kind of pullback in pricing, I think is important. What I think Eileen Higgins is trying to do is she's simply bringing some transparency. Now, the people who are well connected and they can make things happen, they're going to be upset because all of a sudden the whole entire system might be recalibrated. It might be just, broken up. There might be a whole variety of different issues. The people who benefit when there's lack of transparency and a slow walking process are those who are well connected, or those who are willing to come out of pocket and sort of make it happen. And I would imagine if I was a developer, even if I was well connected, I would probably want some sort of transparency, because while I might be on the right side of the trade now, if there's a change in administration, I could be on the wrong side of the trade. So I applaud her for that. I don't know enough about her. I'm with you. There's no way you get that high unless you do have some teeth. So that's probably a good thing. But as soon as I found out that she doesn't have a car and she takes public transportation like I do, I was all in. I happened to meet some of her people from the administration over in Cayocho for some sort of event going on, stuff like that. I like it just makes sense to me as somebody who's in here. They see the value and they're willing to grind it out. They're willing to show up at the office, according to her. She's going to be in City Hall regularly. She's going to give regular hours. How long that lasts, who knows? But it's almost as if we need to do a little bit of change. Josh, you were talking about marketing of schools. We need to market the schools, and I believe you. Francis Suarez was great at marketing a school, so he brought a bunch of people. Now we need somebody. Now that the marketing's happened, now we need somebody to execute on the business that's occurred. So she might hopefully be the right one to take everything Francis Suarez did in terms of hoopla and now actually convert it into something. So,
great point.
That's my take.
What I had to look it up really quick because I didn't know. It seems that she hasn't said it explicitly, but it seems she's pro public schools. I don't want to speak without knowing what I'm talking about. Eileen Higgins generally, it seems like she just wants people to do well and for our system to serve the underserved, which is a great thing to say. Just how do we do it? Are charter schools the way? Are charter schools the answer? Is it as simple as just making public schools better marketers, or is there more to it, Josh?
I don't think the mayor of Miami has much to do with how the schools are run, but attracting business down here and then cleaning up the permitting process in the city of Miami would be a great thing. I know a lot of people have suffered, not just in the city of Miami, but other municipalities down here, because there's so many of them, of just taking so long, whether you've got a restaurant, a business, or a home, and whether you're flipping a house or buying your own house and trying to get into it, like, I don't know, years of construction and permitting. Across the street, I live in the city of Miami, so across the street, they're building a new home, but it's taken them a long time to get their permits and a long time to do the construction, a long time to get the inspection. So I think it would be great if she cleaned that up and made it more transparent. I agree with what you said about those that have influence. What I'm interested to see is where the affordable housing part because there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of lip service that a lot of politicians have given that over the years, but I don't know how much of a dent can be made, but I'm hopeful. Fingers crossed.
Well, she's a big proponent behind that TSND zoning, which is that transit station neighborhood development. Josh, I don't want to pretend.
That's a 1 mile radius of a metro rail station. They can get more density.
Any fixed rail, except, and I don't know if you were one of these tree hugging Grovites that fought against it, but the Grove's got a full carve out. So nothing south. That whole stretch on 27th Avenue by Flanagan's, it's carved out. Which that's for another show. That's for another day. I clearly don't really think very highly of that. And then certain historic districts are carved out, like what's Coral Gate off of Coral Way is carved out. There are certain little historic districts that
When
are
you say
carved out, but
meaning the density does not apply to that
does
place?
not apply. So
Oh,
they can't build the workforce housing as prescribed. Now the problem with that is, and what I think a lot of the deep pocketed folks in the Grove don't realize is that TSND, yes, all of these developer tools are about being able to build more density. You got Live Local, which is the state program. You got RTZ, which is the county program. You got TSND, which is the city program. It's all about allocation of tax dollars. So if it ain't going to be TSND, could it be Live Local? So now a developer can come in and say, hey, we're not going to use a city program that would provide revenue to the city coffers. We're just going to get our tax abatement. The city doesn't get shit, and we can build as dense as we want. So I think that was a little short-sighted when they carved that out, and maybe the commission corrects that in the coming months or the coming year, because that 27th Avenue corridor, you got all these like crappy little apartment buildings. Sorry if you live in one, but they're kind of crappy. I
Hey, don't
think
touch Mary's. Do not touch Mary's Cuban
Mary's is
sandwiches and going laundry.
Mary's is north of US 1. Mary's is screwed, bro.
I want to make sure Mary's is protected. You can get a Cuban sandwich at 4 in the morning
there
while you do
used to
your
be
laundry.
such a good little Chinese place there. Do you remember?
Yeah. Thai Q or something right over there on Coral Way and
They didn't
27th
even have a
by the gas
name.
station.
My students, one Chinese, the Chinese dad and the Cuban mother left. Flaquita used to be there, right?
So that is such an only in Miami thing. The Chinese Cubans. Yeah, you go to Tropical Chinese out there in Westchester on Bird,
Right.
just past the Palmetto. It's all of these Chinese Cubans. They exist. Remember
There's also
the communism
Peruvian.
background?
There's the Peruvian Chinese, and there's also the Jamaican Chinese and the
There's the
Trinidadian
Venezuelan
Chinese.
Chinese if you go
Chinese
out to
left China
Doral.
and they went everywhere that they could, you know?
Yeah, and they opened up restaurants. We have such a lack of good Chinese food within driving distance of me. I mean, by the way, we got great Chinese food. King Lao. Shit, I'm mispronouncing it, and somebody's going to correct me. Somebody's going to watch this and get all pissed off. I think it's called King Lao, Qing. I don't know, but it's out in Doral, right off the Dolphin. Fantastic.
So historically, I do, Miami is the first or one of the only major cities to be founded by a woman, Julia Tuttle. But then this is our first female mayor, and that's sort of exciting. And I hope she'll do well. It does surprise me when the city of Miami, pulls things off successfully. And I would say two things, which is the underline looks great, and is a lot of fun to ride your bike up and down there.
6 years later, Josh,
Well, I mean,
you gotta admit,
But they did
that
it.
thing took
Hey,
forever.
Flagler's still not done though.
That's better than some other projects that never have gotten started or
Right.
True.
completed.
He's right.
And I would say the Ludlam Trail needs to be a big linear park that has not even started. And then, I think they did a good job with Regatta Park in the Grove. That looks like very beautiful, and people walk through there, and making it more walkable. So I hope Higgins will do well on several fronts, and if she can clean up this the transparency in the permitting, that would be great.
Can I offer a suggestion? How
Please.
she fixes it? All right. So what you do is you carve it out if you're a primary user. You're going to be living there. You ought to go in one track in terms of fees and everything else. If you need to expedite it, there's something called a long time ago called overnight delivery. There's something called the Lexus lanes if you're driving on I-95. Why don't they simply ratchet the pricing on these permits? And if this is fast track, if people, staff on the ground can't do it, you simply outsource it to a group that's been approved, that has a certain accreditation. And now you can make it happen, and you can generate some money and put it in the coffers, and everybody seems to be happy.
Peter,
I don't know why
that
would be.
That's a great idea.
We only
But
want our public schools to be private and our prisons. So not actually
Well,
Not our
but what
not our
happens?
bureaucracy.
not our bureaucracy, right? We want to keep that as slow as possible.
So Josh and the audience, what happens right now with certain communities, whether it be North Bay Village or it be some of these small little towns, what they do is they outsource it out. They have a planning director who doesn't actually work for the city, but works for a company, and the company has a contract. So it's not like this is rocket science or something
Ooh,
brand
there's
new.
Cousin Paco again. Josh, Cousin Paco's our permanent fictitious guest on this show. He does all the contracting work for the county.
Oh,
Exactly.
Yeah,
This thing could get resolved.
he also drives the pickup truck to the condominium sites where we find the Indian bones or don't find the Indian bones.
Oh, and also,
That's
by the way, Mayor-elect Higgins, besides taking that idea, what I want in return, because Ken Griffin, when you want valuations, you give us a call, you buy us lunch, we'll tell you what the hell's going on. Mayor-elect Higgins, let me tell you one thing you need to do, because I gave you I think a great idea about planning and zoning. You need to extend the time of the Metro Rail. I know Mayor Cava controls it, but if you stop it at midnight, people are going to get tapped out. Why not
not if they
expand it
recall her.
2, maybe 4 in the morning, maybe have it go 24/7, whatever the
24
case may
hours.
be.
You
Yeah,
can depend on it.
but if you rely on the Metro Rail and you're going out partying, you're doing whatever, it doesn't make sense. Have the thing run all the time. In
$402
return,
million budget deficit.
but come on, people will take the Metro Rail if they know. Like for instance, if you go out at night, you know you got to Uber back if you take the Metro Rail. By the way, you can get to a casino, you can get to a Walmart, you can get to 2 Trader Joe's, and you can get to 3 strip joints, all in the Metro Rail for $225.
A friend told you that, huh?
No, I ride the Metro Rail, so
No,
you
I
can
don't go
tell
to Trader
Josh.
Joe's. I don't go to Trader Joe's. Okay.
But Josh, you can see who's going where. You used to be able to get to Sonny's, but I guess Sonny's Barbecue is closing, so you got to check that one off the list.
No,
But
it's Sonny's
you,
Steakhouse.
no,
Sonny's
no,
Steakhouse.
no, I thought it was Sonny's Barbecue right across from
Sonny's
Trader
Barbecue.
Joe's at the end of the line.
We're talking about two different Sonny's.
Daylands.
So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Art
Shorties.
Basel. They had
Shorties.
the water taxi last week. The water taxi was a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know if that's a practical idea, but I know some Key Biscayne families used to drive their boats over to Ransom and just
There was a water
drive.
taxi. There was a water taxi. It ran for like half an hour. It was broken all the time because whoever had the contract for it just blew it. I'll send it to you. I forgot what it was called. It had some clever little name, but it was a sham contract, and that's what we have a problem with a lot in this city. And they just got to clean it up. Listen, we're a growing city. We're a growing city. That's why we need property taxes. And we need good administration. Now, Eileen Higgins, mayor, City of Miami mayor. She's not a strong mayor. I don't mean that about her personally. I just like the position is she's not a strong mayor. She needs to hire her city manager, and whoever she hires is really going to indicate, where her administration goes, where the city commission goes, because the city manager is the one who wields all the power. Noriega's out. Say what you want about him. Did he do his job? Yeah, I think he did his job. So I'm really curious to see who she brings in as city manager. But with that, we are so over time. I'm sorry, all of our commuters. I hope you're still sitting in traffic. I'm sorry. I hope you're not sitting in traffic.
You mean that in a good way?
I do mean that in a good way. But Peter, Miami's new mayor is developers Bestie. Buy, sell, hold.
I am a pound the table buy. I'm going in optimistic because I think the alternative to what we got right now is great. Very bullish, very positive.
Josh?
I'm a hold. I do not know enough about the situation, but I wish the new mayor the best of luck, and I'm very hopeful for her success.
Well, with his logic, I should be holding too. But as happy as Peter is about it, I'm buying with Peter. She is the developer's new Bestie. I mean, objectively, she raised more money from these guys than anybody. And you know what? That's how you play in this town. That's how you build stuff. You gotta spread your chips around, and that's how it is. But with that, guys, this was fantastic. Josh, Mr. Dallenberg, thank you so much. Did you have a good time?
So much. Thank you. It was very enlightening. Thank you, Peter.
Peter, it's a pleasure, Josh.
Thank you for not being mean. No, this was so much fun. Everybody watching from home, sorry we went a little bit over. You can still get happy hour. It's only 5:30. I don't know what the temperature is like outside, but it's supposed to be a beautiful weekend. We will see all of you guys next Friday, 4 p.m. As always, live on YouTube and Substack. Thanks, everybody.